Hello everyone, this is Julie Abels from Ridgelight Ranch again, and we are drawing a dragon today. We've been using the IEW source writing texts, and we have a story about Beowulf killing a dragon. So we thought we would draw a dragon for you. Now I've been kind of playing around with some different dragon ideas, and this is kind of the one that we ended up deciding upon. So, you know, I love some of the different faces and some of the different details that you can add to a dragon, but we wanted to make it a little simpler today. So we are just going to draw this dragon here. I promise it is a little bit simpler. Allow me to break it down for you, and I hope you guys will draw along at home. All right, the first thing that we're going to do is kind of draw some basic shapes in for his body. So I want a smallish oval, and this is actually going to represent this kind of middle part of his body here. And you want it small because you want to have room for the wings, right? Okay, so then you need to ask yourself about how big should my wings be? And one trick that artists use a lot is to kind of just measure with their fingers, how big is this little oval that we just drew in here? And how big is that relative to the wing? So if this is a unit of 1, then, this is probably about, 1.5. So I'd say that's 1. So now I've got 1.5. So probably this joint is going to come right around here. And then it looks like it's probably about the same. Now, if you have trouble holding your fingers steady, you can always grab some other pen or marker nearby and kind of mark the spot and then measure it. Some artists even carry a ruler with them. Not so we can measure precisely, but just so we can have kind of a nice straight edge and we can, kind of see what those measurements are. Like, oh, that's about 1 inch, and that's about 1.5 inches, and looks like that's probably another 1.5 inches to this line. So just something really general, but it's going to allow us to keep our proportions correctly, even if we're sizing up or sizing down. So then the next thing, I'm going to think about this angle. And this is kind of coming straight and perpendicular, so I'm going to draw this line straight and perpendicular. And then I'm going to think, how can I break this wing into different triangles? And so I'm going to think about this maybe being one triangle, which makes this another triangle here. So I'm going to have this come down, and then this piece is going to extend up, and it's going to extend out. And actually, if you think about it, this triangle comes up like this. So his little hand should cut off about there. All right, so now I've got this general shape for this wing. And I can see I'm going to have enough room on my paper. That's the basic thing that I wanted to know. Am I going to have enough room on my paper for my wings? Because I've drawn this a couple times and did not have room. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is kind of sketch in this back wing. And they should be about the same size, maybe a little bit smaller because it's foreshortened, meaning it's just it's kind of moving away from you as opposed to just being completely perpendicular to you. So, if this is about that 1.5 inches, I'm going to say let's stop it a little early. Now, I probably want these about the same. So same kind of thing. I'm going to break these into some triangles and kind of have this wing come back out. Now I've got my basic wing shapes. I'm not even going to draw in this side because it's going to end up being these curved lines. Now let's look at the rest of his body. So right up here at the top of this oval, I'm going to have a big arm muscle, big kind of like forearm muscle come off, and I'm going to think about joints. I'm going to think about his shoulder and his elbow and maybe his wrists. And so I want these kind of to come and form some joints like this. And then how you want to do your hands, I just did some really easy little kind of, I don't even know what kind of hands these are. Now his back feet, I did something a little different. Again, most animals, I think I've mentioned this before in some of my other drawing videos, most animals have what I call kind of the lightning bolt shape of back leg. So we're going to come forward and then back and then forward. And I wanted to give him some bird feet. Now bird feet usually have, when you think about how many toes are going up or back, it's usually like 3 toes up and 1 back, or like 2 and 2. So I'm giving him kind of 2 toes back and 2 toes forward. So I'm going to think about where his other toes are. And from there I can kind of fill in, right? We're going to kind of give him a big, nice big leg muscle. And you could think of this as a big triangle if you wanted. I want to kind of help you see how it gets a little narrower. And that's got kind of a knee, and it's going to come in. This is going to overlap, so I'm going to have this line come here And this line is going to start back from this edge a little bit to kind of give you that feel of overlap where that joint is. And then it needs to come in narrow. And now I'm going to think about where my feet are. And then there's going to be some talons sticking out from there. So it's looking kind of messy. Remember, make your lines light so we can erase all this. In the end, we don't want all these joints showing in the middle of our dragon, right? We just want those leg shapes. Now we want to think about his tail coming down, and you could give him a super long tail or a shorter tail. It's totally up to you. I'm looking at the amount of space I have, and I think I'll just have kind of a medium length tail. Then for the neck, we want it to be, again, this is another triangle here. You can think about this being wide and then getting thinner, or you can think about, hey, if this was a rectangle, look at how it would be the width of the rectangle up here, but not the width of the rectangle down here. So whatever kind of shapes you can turn it into will help you. Now here, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to have a neck, but I want to give it a little curve here. I think he has these like big pectoral muscles in association with these strong front arms. And so I'm going to just kind of come in a little bit here. And then I just want, you can give him a super long neck, or you can give him a short squatty neck. It just depends on what you want your dragon to look like. Then to make the head, most dragon heads are, I don't know, I think kind of lizard-like in the way that I see them, although kind of has some things in common with horses and like giraffes and other ungulates as well. So, all right, so for this, I'm gonna think of like a kind of an oval, and then I'm gonna think of like a circle down here and something connecting them. And that's kind of a basic head shape for a lot of animals. Erase those middle lines there. And now you can see most dragons have horns. So you can give them really pointy horns, you can give them curved horns, you can make those horns like do some kind of ram horn kind of thing. One of the things that makes a horn look like a horn instead of an ear is to kind of give it a base and then come out. And I like to have it just come up and smaller at the end, but not sharp. And I feel like that gives me a nice horn look. And then this dragon, it's hard with this marker, it's a little thicker. When I was drawing it thinner with pencil, you can see how some of these horns are a little bit smaller, and it's a little bit easier to kind of see what's going on in the pencil, I think. So let's keep going. I'm going to give him some additional horns, and I may even come down here and give him kind of a beard. Oh, let's draw in his little mouth. So if you think about usually we're kind of squaring off this part. So we started with a circle, and the reason we started with a circle is because we do want kind of a nose bump. We want this to come, let me make that a little clearer. We want this to be up high, down low, a little bit of a nose bump, give him a nostril. And then this mouth line is not exactly in half, it's a little lower than half. If you want an open mouth so he can be breathing fire, you might draw on either side of this and then kind of loop it around. And if his mouth is open, his bottom jaw might be coming down a little lower. Now I like right here to give him a little bit of a beak, kind of that sharpness that comes right there. It's kind of like, almost like his first tooth. And a lot of times, while this piece will come back, it'll be kind of dark skin in there. You won't get as much teeth. Just get teeth up front. Now eyes, one thing that I think is interesting about eyes is that they often make a huge difference in how your animal looks in the end. We've got a lesson plan all about Rembrandt and drawing, fun faces and changing facial expressions just with eye shape and mouth shape. But even on a dragon, your eye shape is going to make a big difference. If you give him a really narrow eye, he's going to look a little meaner, a little more sinister. If you give him a really circly eye, he's going to look a lot friendlier and a lot nicer. So I'm going to go for something kind of in between. I'm going to give him kind of most of a circle, and I'm going to give him kind of that cat lizard-like line, right? So if you give him more of a human-looking eye, he's going to look a little bit more human than if you give him a more kind of lizard-like eye. All right, so from there we could add some fire, but first let's add this detail on the back. So All I've done for this is make this, it's kind of the same shape you would make for waves. So if you imagine, oh, I actually started on the top of his nose here. If you imagine it's like making a C, like you're drawing in cursive, except instead of coming back on your C, you're going to be a little short on your C, if that makes sense. So instead of coming back like you would for a cursive C, you're going to give yourself a little bit of extra space in between here. And this is going to give you this shape. And this is the sort of shape that you just want to practice, you know, and once you get it, you'll be really fast at it. I don't know why I've practiced this shape so much, but I have. I find it ends up, you know, looking like water. It ends up looking like, you know, scales on a dragon back. I use it when I'm doing kind of, I don't know, like just patterns and different kinds of things. And I haven't finished my wing here, so I don't quite know where this is going to stop. So I'm just going to pause here and I'm going to finish my wing. I'm going to have this come up, and I want this arm, this is kind of like another set of arms, there's wings, and so I'm going to have it a little bit wider at the base, and it's going to come out. And then here, you notice we've taken and given him, it almost comes up like a hand with a little claw on top. And so from here, you actually get kind of like 1, 2, 3, 4. You can even put a 5th one if you want. Let's see, how many did I did 4 there. Let me try 5 over here and see if I can fit them all in. 1, 2, 3. No, I got to get narrower than that. 3, 4, 5. Okay, so from here, you can have them come straight out, or you can kind of give them a joint. I kind of like the jointed look. I feel like it looks a little bit more dragony somehow. I don't know. And then maybe the angle is a little bit less each time. And then each of these, I actually want to have a parallel line. Now this is kind of a harder skill, is drawing another parallel line right next to this other line, because it's just really easy to get too close or too far away and not draw it perfectly parallel. I promise, it's just practice. Just keep practicing, you'll get better at it. But this kind of makes it look like he really has a vein. Now, I'm drawing these a little short. I actually want my wing to kind of come out further in the middle than on the edges. So I'm going to have these come out a little longer. And then this last one can start here. So now I can have these connect. These kind of remind me of bat wings. Pretty soon it'll be Halloween and you guys will be wanting to draw some bats. You have to let me know if you're interested in drawing bats or not. I'm not a big Halloween person, so I don't do a lot of Halloween stuff. But if you guys really want to draw something, you guys let me know. So then this one would be kind of a big connector piece. All right, so I don't know how you guys like 5 versus 4. I think I like where the wing got a little closer in here. I have kind of a big space here, but that's all right. The thing about a mythical creature is you can draw it however you want, and it can't be wrong, right? All right, so then we're going to do this back wing. Same kind of thing. We want to think about these pieces coming off. I do think he should have the same number of little fingers on his wing, on each wing. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. And I'm going to pretend that since we're looking at the back of the wing, those aren't quite as clear because I don't want this video to take forever. And again, I'm going to use, look at that, it's that same little magic C, cursive C action there to make that little claw on top. All right, now I can see where my tail cuts in. Right here is where the wing is, and so my back needs to start right there. And I can finish my little spiky back. Now the nice thing about this is that you can have these be really sharp, kind of wicked looking, or you can have them be a lot softer and more, I don't know, lizard looking. I'm not sure what that is. And then I'm going to make these just smaller and smaller until I get to the very edge. All right, now I can make a little bit darker line here. So here's a trick when you're drawing. It's almost always easier to pull a line than it is to push a line. So that's that. So if I'm pushing this way, it's just a little bit harder to control than if I'm pulling a line down. Now, one interesting thing about dragons, I think this is kind of related to snakes, is they always have this part on their underside that has kind of like a scaled look. And I like to just draw little curved lines, so like little smiley faces all along. And that gives them that kind of underbelly look. And sometimes they draw this all the way down the tail, and sometimes it stops. So that's up to you. Now, we've already drawn this one arm, right? Let's see here. I feel like we should be able to do some kind of different hand for this guy. But we need to do another arm, right? Because he probably has 2 arms and 2 legs and 2 wings. Oh, there's that little magic C action again for these little claws. See, I tell you, I use that a lot. So then, to make it easy, I just drew another line kind of paralleling that line. And that way it wouldn't be anything too new or different. Maybe a little bit less defined because it's further away. I'm going to make these look a little bit more like claws with 5 fingers so that he can like reach up and grab someone. All right, so there we have our dragon. Now we would erase some of these other lines. Maybe pin in the lines you want to keep. Oh, I forgot this guy could have a beard too. That's kind of fun. And then the only thing we would have left is some fire. So it's kind of fun to be able to draw a little campfire or fire-breathing dragon either way. You know, if it's a campfire, you would have kind of a base of logs that you would have your fire sitting on. But if it's, you know, a dragon that's, I don't know, I'm trying to draw logs here. I'm not sure, it's not quite working, is it? The base of the fire would be kind of rounded, is what I was going for. But out of a dragon's mouth, it has to come out of the dragon's mouth, right? And so it would kind of come out. And then I like things in groups in odd numbers, 3s or 5s. You can see over here I have 5 main branches of this main piece of fire. I'm going to do 3 over here just for a little variety. So I'm going to have this come out, and it's just going to be a point, and it's going to come back in. And it's going to be another point. This is actually feels pretty similar to my magic C action. I feel like I'm doing a very similar kinds of movement here. And then to give them a little bit more depth, I'm going to add some extra pieces. And I like to keep them kind of pointy on all sides. I don't know why, but that just looks a little better to me to have them actually be pointy. Let's give that a little bit more curve. And you can keep adding little pieces. You've got yourself a fire-breathing dragon that Beowulf himself got to slay in your IEW story. All right, thanks for watching, guys.